Is there a song that you can hear and you cannot help yourself but get up and dance to?
Candy, or like, it's like...
The full Candy two-step?
Yeah. It was always at like house parties. It was it always came on and it was like, all right.
Congratulations on this film.
Thank you.
It's great to see you in like quite a different role than I've seen you before. If I was going to compare your character to any of the characters you've been before, I'd maybe say like Jason from Scrapper could take on these ideals, but I'm not, for some reason that's what came into my head.
Interesting. I can't imagine him in this world.
Really?
You think he's worked in an office?
I don't think he's worked in an office, it's more about the controlling
I don't think
ideals.
Jason's worked a job.
No, he's
not
not
Jason
worked
has
a
a
job.
job. I think he's unemployed for a while.
Your character has what I always call foot in mouth. Foot in mouth disease, just says things that are in his head.
Foot and mouth, is that what it did?
What do you mean?
What, foot and mouth disease?
Not foot and mouth, foot in mouth.
Foot in mouth.
Foot in mouth.
Oh, that's okay. Let's make sure that's clear.
foot in mouth.
Okay, yeah.
His foot is always in his mouth.
Like I put my foot in it.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
put your foot in it.
I like that. I've never heard that.
Really?
You guys heard that before? Foot in mouth. That's good.
Okay.
He does say things that he shouldn't say.
Yeah.
I think that's what I liked about Samuel. He speaks very freely. I don't think his like social sort of understanding is where everyone else's is at. I think he's very unafraid to sort of just speak freely from maybe in an incorrect way sometimes as well, in a kind of offensive way maybe to Romy, you know. But maybe that's what she liked as well. I think he spots very early on that she's someone who is otherwise very like revered and respected and maybe even feared, you know. He comes in with a sense of like recklessness to that and doesn't respect it at all, which is kind of the basis of the starting point of their relationship, you know. As I think a lot of people in those positions like often get treated in such a rigid way. They get used to this sort of like treatment or interaction. Samuel is like perhaps a breath of fresh air for her because he respects none of that.
She can almost know exactly what everyone's going to say to her the second they come into a room.
Yeah.
So catching her off guard.
Yeah.
It was like pleasing, even though she was like, what? But
Yeah.
it's almost like finally something new is happening in my life.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah.
That's what I like. And on the surface, you know, people can say the film it's about sex, but my biggest takeaway is no matter how much you run from yourself, it's always going to come bubbling up to the surface. You can't hide yourself for so long.
Absolutely.
I love that in the background you have like this AI and robots that are trying to make life easier. But at the end of the day, we're just humans, and humans are going to do what they want. So what was your biggest learning about humanity whilst making this film?
That's such a good analysis. I love that. I think that you hit the nail on the head. I think that the film deals with sex, but sex is just a mechanism to display a wider thing in terms of like repression and restraint and control and what happens if we are not adequately liberated, right? In all sense of the word. And Helena speaks about it beautifully, but the idea that we're like sort of constantly wrestling with our own animal and our own anger and our own darkness. And I think that the film deals with it in a few different ways, but you know, for my character, it's like he's confused about who to be. Yeah. He's confused about how to deal with his darkness. I think no one really teaches us to handle our aggression and darkness, and so then it often comes out in really worrying ways, you know. Particularly young men, there's a lot of confusion, and I think it leads them into really dark and unsteady waters. So yeah, we got to try and protect that and push the conversation positively forwards.
Your character Samuel, same way that you said, he kind of just says what he thinks and he's starting conversations, and he's the only intern that decided to speak up against anything. Into what you're saying about we needing these conversations and people being able to express themselves, the background of like the AI and the robots, that's really just telling you how to think and how to move.
Right.
So you're, in the way that Romy is now going in this journey of exploration.
Yeah.
She doesn't realize that she is also making the cause for people to trap themselves in.
Right.
But that's just something that I took from that, because
yeah, it's interesting.
AI is just, there's just gonna be one, if you type the same thing into AI and we'll have the same questions, it's gonna tell you the one answer, but it's not gonna broaden out to have a different perspective. So she's kind of creating the thing that she's running away from.
I like that.
That was like,
I like that,
something that I pulled from that.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
In the film, something that I liked also is that you had like these two dance moments.
Yeah.
One with Robin and then one with George Michael, my absolute fave.
Good song, no?
Really good song. I wanted to ask, is there a song that you can hear and you cannot help yourself but get up and dance to?
It's a bait one, but like Candy, or like it's like I don't know, or
The full Candy two-step?
yeah. It was always at like house parties.
Yeah.
It always came on, and it was like all right. And then like everyone's doing it.
It's almost disrespectful to hear it and see it.
Yeah. It was like every single week. You know, when you're like 16 and everyone's having their 16th.
Yeah.
It's like every week. It's like all right then.
That's a solid choice.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
That's good. Someone says in the film that it's a positive to be vulnerable, not a negative. And I wanted to ask you, in this role you have to offer a bit of yourself and you have to show a lot of vulnerability. You are more, not just physically naked, but more emotionally naked. So how did you find that in this film?
We are a really positive and safe environment. I think when you create that, when the director creates that, then you can be more vulnerable. You know, you can try things and get to a place of like authenticity much quicker and much easier. We had a really good intimacy coordinator called Lizzie Talbot, who constantly assured us and created a very safe and collaborative environment, and that's like most important with this kind of material. But yeah, vulnerability, I've never really had a problem with vulnerability. I've been raised in a very like supportive environment, so for me it's like not something that I struggle with, luckily. So yeah, it's just about feeling safe enough to access that, you know.
And lastly, another thing that I just love watching any films is when a film is set in the US but a lot of the main characters are not American but are all from around the world.
I mean, all four of us.
Yeah.
There was
exactly.
Antonio, yeah.
Antonio, Sophie, you and Nicole, none
Yeah,
of you from...
2 Australians.
Yeah. What is the biggest surprise that you think Brits will have about the US, and what is the biggest surprise you get every time having to film in the US?
Before I'd been to America, my understanding of America was purely based on like cartoons and film and whatever pop culture. You sort of group it all together, but what you realise when you start to work in different states is how radically different they are. Mm-hmm. It's just so big.
Which state would you say is the most different to British culture?
Maybe like Louisiana, but then again there's also similarities. It's like everywhere has like, UK's like a much smaller microcosm of a version of America, you know. We have like pockets of everything and all types of people believing all different things, so it's hard to say. I don't know.
Thanks for chatting to me again. This was a really great role for you. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much.
And hopefully you listen to Candy after this.
Yeah.
Two stepping around this room. It was nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, cheers.